Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you to all of our supporters for tuning into this briefing. Many people have been watching our briefings already since October, and you've caught on to our general schedule, which is that on Monday, I try to have General Avivi on the briefing. I think it's a good way to start the week. And very often there are things that happen over the weekend. So it just seems to work out well to schedule the general on Mondays. And we try to keep that time sacred so that he can join us. But every now and then conflicts come up. And one such conflict came up today. General Avivi is meeting with the president of Israel right now. So we're going to give him a pass in joining us. And rather, I sat down with him about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago for a pre-recorded briefing. So I'm going to play that for you in just one moment. So thank you to everyone who sends in questions during the briefings, before the briefings, after the briefings. It really allows us to get you the content that you want to hear. A lot of you have asked to hear more about the state of Hezbollah infrastructure in southern Lebanon. So the general speaks about that in today's briefing. And many people are always asking, how much longer will it be for this war in Gaza to continue? One of the stated goals of this war is to destroy the military, to destroy the governmental operations of Hamas in Gaza. When will that happen? So the general discusses that as well right now. So bear with me for a moment while I pull up the interview of Brigadier General Amir Avivi, the founder and chairman of IDSF, from not so long ago today.
This last week was impacted mainly by the devastating event of the killing of the 6 hostages. This created a lot of anger, obviously, in all the Israeli society. Everybody feels that one way or another, something needs to change, that the cabinet, the army, need to do something differently. And every group in the society looks at it differently. There were demonstrations calling for giving up a Philadelphia corridor and reaching an agreement, blaming the government for not doing so and undermining the talks. On the other side, parts of the society will say, no, we need to make them pay, enlarge the operation, kill more terrorists, take part of the area, even annex area from Gaza, or push the remaining Gazans who are in the north part of Gaza south and siege the whole northern part of Gaza. There are many ideas on what to do, but the overall sense is that people want retaliation. They want to do something. They cannot accept a reality where Hamas is murdering our hostages. We saw the Prime Minister addressing on national TV, the society, and explaining why we cannot retreat from Philadelphia, and also why, at the end of the day, it's Hamas that doesn't want any deal, that is trying to stall, that is trying to bring the whole reality into a multi-front war, not being interested in any solution for the hostage situation. For Hamas, and a reality where people are getting angry and there are demonstrations. This is exactly what Hamas wants. Hamas wants to divide the Israeli society, weaken it, and they feel that if they don't release hostages, this just creates more anger within the society, and therefore they are not really willing to reach a deal. And I think that as time goes by, there is an understanding that at the end of the day, it's really Hamas who doesn't want a solution. At the moment, it feels in the war as if we're in a kind of twilight zone. On one hand, in Gaza, waiting to see if there will be an agreement or not, but realizing that probably we won't have a hostage deal. But the fighting continues, but it's not at the level of intensity we saw at the beginning of the war. On the north, in the north, basically, the same. Hezbollah keeps shooting, our citizens are faced, our towns are being wrecked. There is no strategic decision yet to go on a full-scale war in the north, and this is, I think, getting the Israeli society very angry that there is no decisive operation in the north. I don't know for how long the government will be able to continue with this strategy of attrition and no decisive operation in the north. I would expect the Israeli government at this stage to take a decision to go on a full-scale war in the north, to push Hezbollah out of South Lebanon and to hit Hezbollah capabilities all over Lebanon in order to create the terms needed to bring back our citizens home. But the government hasn't reached this decision yet. As we are contemplating what to do in the north, we see operations in Judea and Samaria continuing, arrests every night, ongoing all the time. We see a lot of car bombs and improvised explosive devices inside the Palestinian cities, an attempt to carry out terror attacks inside Israel, which are similar to what we saw at the beginning of the Second Intifada. But overall, Israel is managing to foil most of these attempts. More than 700 terrorists killed in the Judea and Samaria, more than 4,000 arrested. And the operations are ongoing all the time. We saw a devastating attack in Allenby Crossing in the Jordan Valley, a Jordanian who arrived with a truck and shot 3 Israeli policemen in the crossing itself. Jordan has become a very complex place. There are 1.5 million people who cross from Syria to Jordan. There are 1 million Iraqis who are in Jordan. There are 1 million Egyptians. And this is a small country with not much population. And the Jordanian population, the vast majority are Palestinians, and most of them are Hamas, and are adopted the Muslim Brotherhood ideology. Jordan is controlled by a king that represents maybe 10% of the society. The Bedouins, and even among the Bedouins, the different tribes, there are many tensions and many problems. Jordan is surrounded by Syria and Iraq, and on both borders, Iranian militias are operating and trying to undermine Jordan. So this border that for long was supposedly a quiet border has become a huge problem, which requires the army to start building units dedicated to operate in the Jordan Valley. The army intends to put a whole division there, and also there talks about building an advanced fence along the border in order to be able to cope with the many challenges we see from the Jordan Valley. In the northern part of the Jordan Valley, it's near the Golan Heights. There are Iranian militias concentrated near the southern part of the Syrian Golan Heights. This is close also to the Jordan Valley and might pose a meaningful threat to Israeli towns. So definitely this area is starting to become a challenging area, along with all other borders which we are dealing with at the moment. Moshe?
General, thank you for that overview. If we could go back to the discussion in Gaza for a moment, one of the clear goals of the war was to destroy Hamas's governmental and military operational capacity. So right now we're very focused on Philadelphia corridor. Will Israel stay in there? Will Israel not stay in there? But in terms of just Hamas as a military and governmental entity, how far are we away from that being destroyed?
The army is talking about 70% of Hamas that is being destroyed. Every day there are dozens of terrorists that are being targeted, and also the commanders. We saw this week targeting of 2 battalion commanders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, not only Hamas, and also headquarters of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad that were located in schools and were targeted by the IDF. So there is continuous operation. I think that the challenge is more about how to bring Hamas down as a governmental entity. And for this, Israel and the IDF needs to step in and take control on the civil side of Gaza, mainly talking about the way the humanitarian aid is distributed. We heard the Prime Minister saying, we focused until now on the military side. Now we'll start dealing with the civil side. What does it mean exactly? What are they going to do? We know that in Kogat, they appointed a general that is supposed to be in charge of the civil side of Gaza, meaning they are starting to move towards plans to take at least partially control of areas in Gaza and control the distribution of the humanitarian aid and other issues. It's a process, but this can bring us closer to bringing down Hamas as a governmental entity.
And what is the current infrastructure of tunnels underneath the Philadelphia corridor? You have expressed very strongly that the army needs to stay in the Philadelphia corridor. Is the concern that if the army leaves, the tunnels underneath the corridor are reactivated, or has that all been destroyed?
So the army found dozens and dozens of tunnels under Philadelphia, but I must say that the army hasn't found all the tunnels yet. I mean, really finding all the tunnels and also destroying them, it's a process. It takes time. It's a very complicated operation, and it's ongoing. So we are in the process of uncovering these tunnels and also destroying them. Once you destroy a tunnel, you cannot repair it in a day or a week. It takes time. So basically, one of the things that people say, talking about why we can withdraw from Philadelphia for a month or a month and a half, is saying they will not be able to rebuild the tunnels in such a short time, which probably is true. But the issue is that smuggling and on a huge scale can be done above ground, not only underground. And therefore, you need overall control of the border between Egypt and Gaza to prevent any kind of smuggling, whether it's above ground or underground.
Now, Egypt, of course, has a peace treaty with Israel, but at the same time, all of this smuggling is happening through Egypt. Can you speak a little bit about how Egypt has gained from the business of terrorism in Gaza?
Well, I can say that all the buildup of capabilities in Gaza comes from Egypt. And they've smuggled cars, they've smuggled huge machines, the databases, the weapons, anything we can imagine is coming from the Sinai Peninsula into the Gaza Strip. It's a very big economical enterprise. There are people on the other side making a lot of money out of these smuggling operations. And therefore, because it has been ongoing for decades, we cannot trust Egypt to secure this border. We have to do it ourselves. We understood that already 20 years ago when the IDF proposed retreating from Philadelphia. And I hope we are learning the lesson now and understanding that we cannot retreat from Philadelphia again. We need to secure this area in order to prevent a buildup of a terror army again inside Gaza.
Thank you. And when we began this briefing, you were speaking a bit about Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. So if we could go back to that a moment, are you able to share with us how much of Hezbollah infrastructure has been destroyed by the IDF right now? How successfully are they operating in southern Lebanon?
So in the last 10 months, the IDF targeted a lot of the air defense of Hezbollah, creating a reality where our Air Force has freedom of operation all over Lebanon. We have managed to push Hezbollah a few kilometers north in South Lebanon. Many of the top commanders of Hezbollah were toppled. But having said that, and we saw that also in Gaza, without ground incursion, we cannot really destroy the infrastructure. And therefore, at least in South Lebanon, this is something that will be required. We'll have to operate in South Lebanon. A lot of the strategic capabilities of Hezbollah are still intact. The IDF hasn't launched an attack, serious attack on areas around Beirut or in Beirut itself or in the north of Lebanon. Only very pinpointed attacks. So Hezbollah is still very strong. There's a lot of capabilities, and we'll have to take a decision where are we intending to, when and where are we intending to deal with this. And I think it's time we deal with Hezbollah. We cannot wait anymore.
Thank you. And then let's now jump to the Judea and Samaria front of this war. As you noted, there's been an uptick in attempted terrorist attacks and unfortunately successful terrorist attacks. What do you think is behind this increase of activity in Judea and Samaria? Is there a conscious effort by the PA or by Iran to turn that into the next big front?
Iran is really putting a lot of effort to fund, to direct terror attacks in Judea and Samaria. They see that Hamas is losing capabilities in Gaza in a way that Hamas at the moment is not posing a big threat as it did before. So they want to shift the whole center of gravity into Judea and Samaria and create a reality where there are constant terror attacks emanating from the Palestinian cities. So there is a huge Iranian effort, also Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and some of the also Palestinian Liberation organizations. And this is why the IDF is all the time operating and proactive and attacking in the different cities to forward these terror attacks, to arrest terrorists, to kill terrorists. It's ongoing, and overall, I think that the Central Command is doing a good job in trying to secure this area. And since the 7th of October, we managed to keep the area of Judea and Samaria pretty much under control.
General Avivi, thank you so much for sharing all of this with our viewers. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Yes, I think that what worries me most is keeping the society united, not going back to the 6th of October to demonstrations and so on. And I hope that this phenomena that is starting again won't continue. We really need to stay united and deal with the big challenges that we have all over, whether it's in Gaza, in the north, Iran, Judea and Samaria, the Jordan Valley. We're challenged in so many places. We cannot afford having a divided society.
Okay, everyone, that was Brigadier General Amir Avivi in a briefing that we recorded a little bit earlier today. I think it was pretty all-encompassing, sharing what is happening right now in this war. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's briefing. And tomorrow's briefing they're always good, I think. Every briefing that we do presents an important piece of this story here in Israel. Tomorrow's briefing is special, super important. Invite your family, invite your friends, invite everyone you know to join, because tomorrow I'm going to be speaking with a former senior official in the Mossad, and we're going to be talking about Iran, which is his expertise. So it is a briefing not to be missed. And with that, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for sending in your questions. If you're watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the channel, encouraging others to watch these briefings as well. Our next briefing will be tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.